And when the night falls, the magical cat band plays tropical cumbia for us.
All right, awesome. Yeah, I'm using this studio microphone, so just checking the level here.
Okay, that's cool. So we're gonna deliver the best audio quality. Right?
something like that. Yeah.
I'm just having a lot of fun listening to The Right Way. I was listening to The Right Way.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. I love dancing to that song. It's pretty cool.
Awesome. That's good to hear. You guys are playing it down there?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, I love it. And this is exciting. I'm really excited. Ladies and gentlemen, DJ, producer, guitar player, founding member of Underground System. Peter Matson is my guest today on the show. So thank you for doing this, Peter. It's amazing.
For sure.
I can believe it.
Thank you for having me.
Isn't it amazing how interconnected the world these days is? Like, I'm a simple guy in Ecuador in the Amazon region talking to my heroes around the world.
Yeah, I mean, that is amazing. That's the better part of all this globalized stuff we've got going on.
Absolutely.
The internet and all that, for sure, is being able to connect with someone like you that we never would have maybe met before.
Yeah, sure. So when I discovered you and Underground System last year, I think it was, I just thought, this is my music, this is what I like. I want more of this. The world needs more of this, this is totally my vibe. So I love your music. And I would say maybe let's start talking about Underground System.
Yeah, for sure.
We have a new EP, Into the Fire, which is out. It's the first in a series of 2, right?
Exactly. Yeah. We sort of really like a partnership with our friends Razor and Tape, a great dance music label here in Brooklyn. That they sort of they started out as like really like a DJ only, almost like edit and kind of dance floor track label. A lot of 12-inch releases, that sort of thing, some bootlegs, etc. And they've gotten into a place the past few years where they were really wanting to push and do more original music, because there are a lot of people like us out there making original dance music. Maybe we have a band, maybe we have disco groups that also play live from all over the world. All these sorts of situations where we're not editing or sampling an old tune. We're actually like creating this stuff in real time, and that sort of distinction, that separation. They want to do original stuff, and here we are. We know them, and it all worked out.
Sure. So what emotion do you feel when you listen to your own album? So how would you describe the sound you have created on this album?
Oh man, it's all when you've lived with making an entire tune, you start to like, your perspective morphs. It changes, and sometimes you can sort of lose yourself a little bit when you've been living with the same music that you're releasing for like months in a row. But now we've got a few months of distance from it. I haven't been listening to those songs constantly, so it still feels good. It feels like a nice representative mix of where we're at with the group right now. Just we're always like a bit of a combination of some influences and styles that I think you can hear in there. And it just sort of represents us getting back out into the real world, touring again, doing all these things that we were ready to do for the last few years but couldn't always.
You were touring in Europe also, no, this summer, during this summer?
Very beginning of summer we had a nice return there. That was the first time in 3 years. It was sort of surreal to be back. It was kind of crazy. There was a moment where we were like, are we ever gonna like play overseas again?
You played in Germany, right? At the Fusion Festival. I was there. I lived in Germany for around 12 years. So
oh, wow. Yeah.
It was the Fusion.
Crazy festival.
It's a crazy festival, right? What was that experience like?
It was a bit of a roller coaster. I'm sure that can get crazy for anybody who's involved. It's like tens of thousands of people on an old military base in rural Germany. But the shows were fine. We got stopped by like the German like customs police on the way in to the festival, and they like searched our van for like 3 hours. And like, yeah, it was like it was an ordeal. We got off and were able to play the shows, but there's like definitely some headbutting in that local community that's probably more conservative versus the mission of that festival, which is like a massive amount of people coming into that tiny little town and that area. So it's a wild experience. German Burning Man, really.
Yep.
That was
France also. No, what was like the coolest crowd from?
Right. Yeah, man, we had so many cool shows in France. Really memorable one from a few years ago. That first long tour we did was Laurent Garnier's festival. In the south of France in Provence, from the town Lumerin, which I may or may not be pronouncing correctly, but where he was from originally, I believe. And he has his own kind of it's really like a local festival, but he's such a legend and so connected globally that they have some international acts, but then they have a lot of really cool and diverse programming of French artists. But festival, that's a really good one. If you're in anywhere in south of France in early June, they do it yearly. That's a great festival to go to. And then there are other ones too. I mean, we did a lot of shows within like 2018 and 2019 over in Europe.
Cool. Sounds amazing. So your live show is also a great experience. What can someone expect who hasn't been to one of your shows? So there's this element of dancing and stuff. So what can we expect when we see a live show?
Definitely. It's like real high energy, very engaging performance. There's 5, 6, 7 of us on stage. It's a full on like real like headlining kind of feel to the. Nice. We're really going for it. We're playing hard and going in. But there's also, I think, the people that don't know about us that catch us playing live. We leave an impression, I think, that's a little bit deeper in the sense of like they're like, wow, like what just happened? Or it's very intersectional. Right. There's a lot of different like. There's different stuff going on that we're different sorts of people. There's a lot of diversity through the band over the years, male and female dynamics. And there's just like a lot of we're not easy to be like fully stereotyped into one thing. And I think people that are appreciative of that, like really kind of latch onto that eventually. They're like, wow, they're up to a few things at once, but they're doing it well. And I think that's our lasting impression that we leave live when people experience a whole set, for an hour or however long we're playing. It's kind of the journey we go on.
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, we can also hear some Afrobeat definitely in your songs. So when did you discover Afrobeat music?
That was towards the end of the 2000s, and it was really like having a moment here in New York City. There are a lot of great groups from that era that maybe the one that you would pinpoint the most in New York that did that sort of Fela proper Nigerian like 70s Afrobeat style in a revivalist sort of way and brought it to a new generation was that group Antibalas, and they're still touring constantly.
I know them. I saw them live also.
Awesome. Yeah. So I was basically I was meeting those guys. I met this one guy, Victor Axelrod, who's a very legendary producer and keyboardist. Cool. He worked on the Amy Winehouse record. He's like A-list sort of session player, but he's also a founding member of Antibalas and cool. Sharon Jones and the Dap Kings. And just sort of very inspiring musicians and really like discipline in the right way. Where I just love that learning to play guitar with that style. Fela's guitarist, or like it's also like kind of James Brown sort of sensibility where you got to play just one thing. You got to play really well. And there's like no arguing with it. It's just like, that's it. You can do that or you can't. And I really appreciated that challenge at that time when I was getting out of like college here in New York and being like, I want to do something that's like real and functional. And then beyond that, I just sort of fell in love with the whole that whole universe and the stories of just for me, I'm just like I have a real musical background and upbringing, and I have some interesting stories in my own family about musical heritage, but learning about the sort of kind of the heritage, and then
Yeah,
that kind
you
of
have. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
yeah. Well, my dad, I was born in Los Angeles. My dad's a film composer, and then he became sort of like a music professor, but he's also like an old kind of rock and roll guy from the Bay Area in the 60s, like Berkeley, California. So he was kind of like, he was there, he's watching the Rolling Stones and like The Who. And he came up in that. And then my mom's side of the family, all from New York City. My great grandfather was Irving Berlin, who's a very famous Broadway and standard songwriter that wrote some, just like all time classic tunes. Some of the most famous would be like White Christmas and God Bless America. But he also had it's like great American songbook stuff. 20th century music. And then, I have a lot of cousins that are musicians, and
cool.
I grew up.
So you were exposed to music from a very early age, right?
Definitely, yeah.
And your first instrument was the guitar, right?
Yeah.
When did you pick up your first guitar?
That was like maybe beginning of high school, and then started to get. I wasn't like a child, like I wasn't forced to do a ton of music. I had like maybe a year or two of piano lessons when I was little, but then it was kind of, I wanted to play guitar in high school, an electric guitar. I liked rock music and some funk and jazz and soul stuff, and I just sort of went straight to that. I wasn't really strumming on acoustics. It was like straight to electric guitar, and then I started learning about jazz, and that was that.
And how did you guys meet each other? So with the other members of Underground System?
Yeah, Underground System, I met Dominica, the front woman, we're really like the partners that are running the group. We write and produce the music and are kind of calling the shots with everything. And I met her, it's about a decade ago. I was interning at a music publishing company that she was working at. And then at the same time, I would see her out in Brooklyn at shows. I was like, hey, I'm starting this band. Do you want to just do this? And it's like, it's just sort of one of those things. It worked out. New York's good for that. Yeah,
absolutely. And I read also in some interviews that she's also really into Afrobeat music, right?
Definitely, yeah. It levels a little bit deeper than me too. Or she traveled to Ghana and has studied West African dance. And,
that's so cool.
Yeah, she's a proper dancer too, alongside being like a incredible flute player and vocalist. She's got a lot going on. Dominica is like a force.
Are you friends with Caleta? Do you know Caleta?
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. He was on my show too. I talked to those guys also.
Oh, awesome!
Like cool. A whole episode with Caleta. Yeah, it was amazing. And he was mentioning some of the things you said. Like Afrobeat, because I asked him like, so how do you play Afrobeat on the guitar or on drums? And it was hard for him to describe how to do that. I was born with this, right? So
well, he is he's from
amazing.
The epicenter of it, and he played with Fela, so he knows what's up. I used to play in this group called Akoya. Once in a while, that he was the front person in. But were you talking to Super Yamba people? Was that cool? Nice.
Yeah, it was very cool. Yeah, I also discovered Afrobeat also around the end of the 2000s, and me, the drummer of my band at that time in Germany, we both were like two wide-eyed guys discovering this new world, and then
totally
discovered. We love the Daptone records. All the artists.
Of course,
there. The Buddha's band is one of my favorite bands.
They're really excellent. Cool.
Yeah. So cool. So now maybe let's move on from the live acoustic music to the more mechanical type of sounds, electronic sounds. Let's talk dance music, nightlife culture, because you are also a DJ and you also produce your own sounds, right? The club scene in New York. Now, dance music is such a big concept. What exactly it is? How would you describe it?
Right. Well, it's got a lot of branches on the tree at this point, right? It's such a global, also almost like phenomenon at this point. It's like this massive.
It's like hip hop, right? It's such a huge thing, right?
Yeah, it's everywhere. for the purists in us and a lot of like the sort of like underground people, I think the genesis to me and to a lot of New Yorkers and people would definitely be traced back to the disco years and the few years leading up to that too as well. There's the ever famous Loft and Dave Mancuso and that sort of sensibility of that like kind of almost like rare groove. Just never ending, like soulful, funky, jazzy cuts with this like specific peaks in them that allowed people to just kind of lose themselves. You know, you get in. This is the same thing that we deal with that we were just talking about in live music, that endless repetition and grooves that feel like they could go on forever if you wanted them to. And then it started becoming more formalized, and you start like kind of in retrospect at this point, realizing all these little subgenres and different changes in eras and technology that allowed new styles of dance music to flourish over the years. But it would be hard to put it all under one umbrella at this point, I feel like, you know. But yeah, I'm definitely like that sort of like the New York sensibility of combining multiple genres within one night or one dance floor, or you know, that I think that's what I appreciate the most. At the same time that I do love hearing of an extremely nuanced, seamless, like long form set of one particular style of club music. I do love that, and I really appreciate it when it's done well. I like the juxtaposition of different cultural reference points and things over the course of like a whole club night. I don't know if that answered the question, but
sure, absolutely. And where do you play these days? Like if you are new to New York and you want to explore the club scene, where should I go?
Yeah, this week, about a year ago, we started a hybrid DJ and live residency at this venue called Public Records in Gowanus.
Okay,
that place has a really, this is in Brooklyn, it has a really, really beautifully built out sound room with this 4-point wooden speakers that were custom built. And the DJ booth's like a spaceship. It's like this insane custom rotary mixer, and like the monitoring is great. And it's like a joy to play music in there.
Wow. Yeah, the sound is just so important, right?
Yeah,
like the technical part of building a club, right?
Totally. It's really and you notice it when people go above and beyond to like that's what separates a real club from just like a bar or something too. Which is also, that I should say, that's a big part of like any DJ in New York that came up in New York learning how to DJ. You spend a lot of time in bars with shitty sound systems. It's like that's part of it too. You can't be like a full on snob. You have to like understand how to do the job, you know. but it's like a proper club experience with a tuned up sound system or with proper acoustic treatment. Yeah, that's the best, and there are quite a few of them around. Like old Standby, like for more of like just a classic no frills New York nightclub, I always enjoy going to Good Room, which is here in Greenpoint, Brooklyn. They get a lot of international touring DJs from the sort of underground scenes, but really just kind of just no BS, just New York club. 2 rooms. There's a small room called the Bad Room, and then there's the main room, and you can just walk back and forth all night. And hang out as long as you feel like, pretty much. That's one that's been fun over the recent years. There were a lot of smaller sort of like hi-fi aspirational spots too. So this place, Jupiter Disco, I would play at a bit. There was a club called Black Flamingo that's still going. It's like a basement spot with some clipped speakers and nice mixers, and that's been a standby over the years. There's a mezcal bar. This is one of my favorites, called Milagrosa, which is attached to a Mexican restaurant owned by this guy Felipe, who's from Coyoacan in Mexico City originally, but he's been a restaurateur in Williamsburg, Brooklyn for a couple decades now. And he has like, it's like the best possible like speakeasy, almost like a your like dream side room in your like place or something, just
Wow.
all wood, and he has nice Macintosh amps and some clipped speakers, and that place
Okay.
is awesome. Yeah.
That sounds great.
Yeah, it really is. Milagrosa, yeah, for anyone
Milagrosa.
making it to New York. It's in Williamsburg, Brooklyn.
Cool. That sounds great. And would you say, I don't know, is there a difference between the New York and the European club culture, like US American and Europe?
Yeah. Yeah, there
Like the way people, I don't know, celebrate, dance, the approach to
definitely.
dance music. Yeah, is there?
Yeah, yeah. It's been way in the past decade. Those lines got really blurred because there became such an exchange between, I guess I would say, even particularly like Berlin and New York City,
Uh-huh.
and the younger generation of techno kids, and there's just all kinds of crossover going on now. But I think New
Okay.
York is kind of a bit of that, like that bar culture is still there, where
Mhm.
people are like they're really drinking, and they're like it's a little bit more. It's not a more aggressive, but there's I don't know. You have to be like ready to engage people,
Mhm.
like,
Mhm.
and just some shit might go
In New
down.
York,
But
right?
yeah,
Mhm.
it feels a little bit more aggressive on the streets, um, and then some of the like sleepier European towns that I've been to that might have like a crazy club that you just walk into and you're like, oh my God, like everyone's here.
Yeah.
New York's like the whole city is alive like on a weekend. So
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
that energy plays into, you don't feel like you're isolated or you're in your own world. You feel like you're a part of this massive like amorphous blob of
Mhm.
nightlife, like
Yeah.
you could go like so many places. There's bars, restaurants, clubs. Like I think that sort of does separate New York a little bit from like maybe a smaller European city, that's maybe a little quieter on average, but then you like you go to like a warehouse for a massive rave or something
Yeah.
like that,
Yeah.
or something like out of town even.
Yeah.
That does, there's a subtle difference there.
Yeah. Okay. I got it. But
Yeah.
would you say, if we say Berlin, have you been to Berlin? I guess
Just
so.
passing through to that in
Oh,
2019 to go to that festival
to,
that we were playing. But yeah, I was supposed to make it there, but then you know what happened in 2020. So it's on the list now. I'm going to go to Europe in the fall. Maybe
yeah,
I'll make it out there. I
absolutely.
really want to go. For years now. So I'm long overdue.
Mhm. Can we talk now maybe a little bit about your gear,
Yeah,
your equipment? So do you use a lot of analog gear? Uh, Maybe we can break down one of your songs if you want, like to. Can you
sure.
maybe
Yeah.
describe a little bit the process of creating your songs? So what equipment do you use, and what kind of amps and preamps? So I'm
Yeah.
really interested in, and this is kind of, I always have this part in the podcast when we talk about a little bit this geeky details of making
Oh
music.
yeah. I'm down if
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
you're
So if you
into
want to
that.
break down one of your songs and talk about all the equipment you use and cables and machines and all that, I love that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
What's one of the tunes that you were listening to?
Well, I was listening to this song that I really like. For the right way. No?
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been. Yeah, that was just all me producing that one. Let me think. A couple of the key instruments in there. There's hi hats from a 707 drum machine that were
Okay.
pretty important when
707 drum machine.
when I first started that groove. I remember that.
Yeah. And the
There's
bass, is that a synthesizer?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a Juno
The
bass, and then
Juno. Okay.
there's 106, I believe, and then there's also extra layers from, this is one of my favorite instruments, the Roland SH-101,
Uh-huh.
which comes into play just as like a decorative sort of instrument in a lot of stuff I work on,
Yeah.
adding a little bit of extra uh, rhythmic lines or textures,
Uh-huh.
arpeggios, that kind of stuff. That's in there. I used a vocoder I have an MS-2000, which is a early 2000s Korg synthesizer that has a good vocoder on it. So that's what those vocals are in there mostly in that tune the right way. A bit of like hand played percussion, like then like really heavily quantized and looped up. That was going on. Yeah, the chords would be from a Juno too. What else is in there?
So you have all this equipment in your studio.
Right? Yeah, I work at a couple. It's like all pieced together at different studios for me right now, where depending on the context, that tune didn't have live drums on it, but a lot of like Underground System is a ton of live drums and other productions I work on to incorporate live drummers. So then there's a couple studios on that level. Recording drums is a whole thing. That's like a lifetime of work and investment and equipment and things like that. And I can't do that and also be a functioning artist and a DJ. And that's a separation that is really important to make for some people to understand that when you want to do something and have like a certain quality or sound to it, or sometimes you got to go to somebody who knows. You need a second pair of ears. And though a lot of times when I record live drums, that's a studio called Transmitter Park here in Brooklyn. It's owned by this engineer Abe Seaforth, who's really great. It's been like a long time guy I've gone to do that kind of like acoustic live recording when you have to get the sound of a room. Which is different than if you're like plugging a synthesizer in directly to a preamp. Capturing the audio in a room on a microphone, especially for a drum kit, is like that takes a lot of work and a lot of patience and just knowledge, etc.
Yeah, that's right. So it takes a lot of time. Knowledge. How much time do you spend with creating a track, composing, producing a track?
It can be a good amount at this point. I do revise things a good amount. Maybe when I first started, some stuff that wouldn't even be like officially released at this point, but I would move faster or just like work like all day and try to like get something like to a place that felt good. But then, then your ears are like bleeding and you lose perspective. So now these days I like to work like a few hours at a time and kind of, slowly revise and mold tunes that I'm working on over the course of, maybe it's a few months or something, not working every day at all, but like coming back every few days while it's still, so you're still somewhat inspired but just really kind of just plugging away, be like, okay, let's replace this bass sound today. I think we can do that better. And you sort of chase your own tail until you feel like you can't make the production or the song any better than what it already is, and then you have to let go. Which is that's hard for some people. It's tricky.
I totally agree. And it involves so much work because I'm also trying to make music with my computer now, but all I have is a MIDI keyboard. So sometimes I think I need something else to make the sound a little bit more warm. So I guess what you do, and everybody who does electronic music, is you use this analog gear to find that sound. Huh?
Yeah. And for me, it's definitely a mix. So I use Ableton constantly. That's my main DAW, and I really don't mind starting tunes with a bunch of plugins or what. That's not a big deal to me at all. I enjoy that. But for a finished thing that you might want to release to the world and you want to be proud of for years to come, then it's like, then you kind of, you want to do that extra step and be like, okay, like how can this like be the best possible result
Sure.
And that's when that extra production knowledge can help out. It doesn't mean that you need to have like a bunch of expensive shit.
Yeah, because that's the thing. Yeah, I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, do I have to spend so much money now buying keyboards and stuff?
Yeah, no, I mean, a few pieces that you really like or
Yeah.
like that that you're going to use. Yeah, but you don't need to be excessive. You can be kind of smart.
Yeah.
Or, you get some friends that have a lot of gear. That's another good way to do it.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
That's, especially in big cities, there are always like people with just piles of like collected stuff. Some of it's not always being used. So, yeah.
And what's a Euro rack?
That's a particular format of modular synthesizer equipment.
Okay, so it's a synthesizer, right?
It's and just the basic concept of that being that you're assembling all these modules that you can choose yourself that do different functions in synthesis. Like, there might be the oscillator, which generates the tone in the first place, and then you have filters, and the list goes on and on of the kind of components of a synthesizer.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, it kind of allows this like customization. And
so manipulate the sounds basically. No?
Yeah, exactly. And you can sort of like, you get to choose your own setup, like piece by piece of what's making those synth sounds for you. I've only like dabbled in it. I have like one semi-modular synthesizer in the sense that you can route and reconnect things in different orders to create interesting results in a sound. But yeah, I have quite a few friends that have like really full on Euro rack or like racks of modular stuff that all patched up with the 1/8-inch cables and just going crazy on it, working for hours on sounds. Yeah, it's really cool stuff.
Yeah. It's fascinating. It's so much. So what's the future of I don't know if this is like kind of a weird question, but how do you see yourself or people making music 10 years from now? Are we going to do the same thing? It's going to be like a big discovery, improvements in technology music?
Yeah, music is a little slower moving than other aspects of tech, I think, because it's just hard to reinvent the wheel all the time.
Yeah.
With sound is a particular thing. Yeah, I mean, you get sort of like philosophical or existential about it. It's really there's just like a limited range of sound waves that we can even hear as humans. So we have speakers, right? It's like, and that's kind of what they are. I mean, there's people getting into all this like 3D mixing and that sort of sound design these days, especially for movies and visual components. But there is an element of, it's hard to reinvent a saxophone or a guitar or just these like instruments that are ingrained in our specific cultures. I don't think that, at least for music production, it's just sort of like these slow and steady improvements that get made. The power of processing on computers, plugins becoming like higher fidelity or maybe lower fidelity, but actually feeling like an analog source. I've noticed that like in the past couple of years that some of the, like, I have those Arturia plugins that are sort of like modeling old analog synthesizers and keyboards. And they actually are like fun to work with, where previously it was just like, no, this is not the real thing. It doesn't sound at all, but so there's little incremental, I think, improvements in music technology on the production side. Then for a consumer, that's a different thing. That'll be interesting to see what the next era is after, like Spotify and TikTok, like where are we going? I'm curious. I think we could do a little bit better online for music delivery platforms at this point. I don't think we're done. I don't think it's an ideal kind of era in music distribution and like the internet interfacing. I think there's a better version that would need to happen eventually, but we'll see where it goes. Yeah. So I guess there are two sides of that, right? There's kind of like
Yeah.
the actual like musician industry, music making, production, technology, future sort of side. And then there's like the consumer, that's important if you're like me and you actually want to communicate with people and want to make music for other people and for places and experiences, right?
That's right. Yeah, that's true. Absolutely. I have a few questions I announce on my Instagram and Twitter and Discord. Actually, I have
Mhm.
some people on my Discord, and I have a couple of cool questions here. Somebody asks, "What do you think about when you make music?"
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's a good one. Huh?
It wouldn't be one thing over that I have a few years of producing stuff behind my belt. I think the one thing that uh, helps me make a lot of music consistently at one time for me is um, being in maybe a new place or a new moment in my life where it
Yeah.
feels like things are transitioning a bit, and you sort of also have a little bit of time to process like how you're feeling personally, or maybe you're inspired artistically
Hmm.
by being in like literally a new environment. A lot of times when I go to new places and I have a little bit of music equipment with me, that will like kind of be the inception of a lot of nice musical ideas if I have a few free days somehow. Like that's happened to me in Mexico when I visited with like
Hmm.
even with like what you're describing, just with a MIDI keyboard and your laptop.
Yeah.
That's sort of like the inspiration moment, the moment of like just, oh, what kind of like style of thing do I want to try to make, or how am I feeling that day?
Yeah.
So yeah, I get places and travel inspire me a lot for sure. Uh, and then more and more as I get a bit older and the technical side of producing music, I have like some understanding of. I'm then I get more concerned with like, okay, what are we really trying to say? Like, let's write some songs. Let's figure that out.
Hmm.
Uh, but yeah, I wouldn't think about one particular thing when I'm making music. I think it's more just like allowing myself to be. Can I
Yeah.
be in the moment? Can I let go enough to get some new ideas out? Right.
Sure. Sure. And do you think the pandemic has had an impact on that? What has changed
Yeah.
during this time?
Yeah. Well, with that real lockdown in 2020, that was all I could do is like make some new music. So I did that.
Yeah.
But no, it wasn't ideal for anyone, as I don't think the feeling of that moment, but that was the best thing that I can make happen. And then
Yeah.
it's a new era now. I think a lot of things shifted with all this
Sure.
like international travel and politics, and there are new patterns of people
Hmm.
traveling to new places after the pandemic and just sort of making up for weird lost time. And it'll be interesting to see how things unfold. I don't feel particularly settled into like a particular thing right now in terms of like the style of music or specific uh like vibe that I'm latching onto. I'm sort of searching at the moment, I'd say, as I create some new
Hmm.
stuff.
Hmm.
So yeah, the pandemic sort of like shook things up a bit and made people kind of reevaluate where they're at.
Sure. Absolutely. So I have two more questions for you, Peter. Thanks so much for doing this again. It's been an amazing. Are you having fun? I'm having a lot of fun.
Definitely. Yeah, yeah. No, it's
It's
nice
been
to
so
just
much fun. Yeah,
nice to chat like
absolutely.
this for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, yeah. So Discord people are quite cool. So it says, "What artist or song resonates with you the most right now?" So what are you listening to
Oh,
right now?
that is a good question.
Yeah.
You know who I listened to a lot this year? Maybe not this week, but just I think every month recently. Roshan Murphy, that Irish singer songwriter. Do you want me to spell that, or do you know
Yeah, yeah,
her?
yeah. Sure.
Yeah, Roisin. Roshan. I think that's
Uh-huh.
how you pronounce
Russian.
it.
Okay.
Yeah, Murphy is her last name, but yeah, she's
Okay.
just a badass. She's been around doing great music for a long time.
Oh,
She had
really?
this band Moloko in the 90s.
Oh, Moloko. I know Moloko. Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, no, she's had some hit songs in the underground and dance music world over the years, but
Okay, cool.
she had some recent records out produced by this pretty like underground legendary UK guy who's his most known alias I think is Crooked Man. He's like a DFA artist, but I think he's from Sheffield in the UK, and it's just badass stuff. It's like cool, like dark, sort of dark disco, very like it reminds me a little of like Roxy music or that sort of attitude.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, check her out. That
Yeah, definitely. I will do.
It was what's the name of the? I think it's like Roshan Machine was an album from a couple. Yeah, it's like her first name Machine. Her album from a couple years ago. That's sick. And then they did an entire remix album of remixing the album in order of it's just really cool, like as a seamless sort of experience, not just like a bunch of random remixes from different artists, but they just like completely remixed the album as like one thing, which is a really cool concept that not everyone could pull off.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a great artist that I've been enjoying recently.
Sounds great. I'm gonna check it out
definitely.
away after the podcast.
Cool. Yeah.
And I have one more here on Discord. If your house was burning down and you could only save 3 things, what would they be?
Damn. Yeah.
Hopefully that never happens, but
yeah, right. Yeah, it's same to you. But man, I'm glad I have a nice, like, well put together small apartment right now, so I don't have too much stuff.
That's good. Your guitar, probably, no?
Yeah, exactly. Right. Running out the door, it would probably be like grabbing an instrument like guitar. In all honesty, probably some sort of tech device at this point, because that's where all our shit is backed up on, right? You know, my laptop or a hard drive or something, you know, as that's pretty real. That's especially if you're any sort of creative producer person, just endless files backed up in weird places.
Cool.
Yeah, I don't know. Put some shoes on, hopefully. Yeah.
Cool. So what's coming up next? Any new releases? What can we expect from you and Underground System?
Yeah, there's a bit to work on right now. It's sort of like I had to like regroup myself and like really I have to make room to finish a lot of new stuff. We're going to do that second EP with Razor and Tape.
Yeah, cool.
And that'll be on its way. I think we'll do a single in a couple months, and then we'll put that out at the beginning of next year. But then it's about time. We need to do a second full-length album for Underground System, and we've got some songs that are already done for that, but we got to really like finish that and you know, make it all feel good and sequenced and in a way that feels right for a proper LP, you know. So that's going to be a big one on the to-do list, and then I'll do a solo record of my own
cool, in
the next year or two as well. So I've got plenty of stuff to finish up right now.
All right.
Yeah, so there'll be nothing huge this fall, just one single from Underground System, but I'm just back in the studio again and making the next batch of stuff. So we'll see what comes from it.
Cool. Really looking forward to it. Thank you so much for being on the podcast, Peter.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Say hi to your bandmates, Domenica and everybody. They are great. I love the energy you put out there. So
thank you.
Thank you for being here. And
hopefully I make it down your way some year coming up.
Sure. Yeah. I'm trying to organize a festival here in the jungle with some of the artists that have been on my podcast. It's going to be hard. Nobody plays here in Ecuador. You know, I don't know if it's such a small country or safety reasons, whatever it is, but we need to do something here, you know,
definitely,
culturally speaking, because it's such a shame, you know, there are so many beautiful places here to organize.
Yeah, it seems like a really incredible country. I got to come visit.
You know, it's very small and you have everything, right? You have mountains and the sea, the Pacific Ocean, and the jungle. So it's kind of cool.
The sort of images and videos I've seen, it looks awesome.
Cool. All right, Peter, have a wonderful day there and talk to you soon. Bye.
Thank you.
Goodbye.